You beat me to it then. Nice. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and a warm welcome to the Red and Blue Review and a happy new year to each and every one of you. From the Red and Blue family to your family, we wish you a happy new year. Coming up on tonight's show, we're going to be reviewing two games, the defeat away at Stamford Bridge and the home win, finally, home to Brentford. We're going to be talking the transfer window and lots of other bits and pieces coming up. And before I introduce you to the team, tonight's team, there are a couple of things I want to tell you about. For each and every one of you that have contributed towards Claire Davis's funeral arrangements, from the bottom of my heart and everybody on the team, I thank you very much. It's really good of you. They're making good strides towards a £10,000 target. Okay, if you have not had the opportunity to yet contribute, on your screen now, you will see a QR code. Feel free to grab your device of any description, iPad, mobile phone, or whatever it is. Nigel will leave that up while I'm talking for a second to give you an opportunity to get your device to hand. Take a picture of that. It will take you straight to the Just Giving page and say we are aiming to get the bucket collection at Selhurst on Saturday. It was really good, and we're going to be doing it again for the home game against Sheffield United. We'll certainly be in the fan zone for that day. Also on the Sheffield United game, on the 11th minute, please spread the word all over social media, ladies and gentlemen, that we are going to be doing a minute's applause for little young young Holly on the 11th minute. I know Claire and her family will be in the ground, in the stadium for that game. So please join us. Spread the word all over Twitter, Facebook, or whatever Facebook groups you're on. Please pass on the details about the minute's applause on the 11th minute against Sheffield United. Just to let you know, as I say, we are edging our way closer to that £10,000 target. And one of the items that you may be interested in, we're going to be having various auctions. Greg Ellis, part of our family, Red and Blue Review family, has donated a framed signed Ian Wright shirt. That will be coming available in the next week or so. Also on eBay right now, there is a Crystal Palace shirt completely signed by the squad. It's a year 2000 shirt for a game against Tranmere Rovers. And that's also been kindly donated for us. That is on eBay now. If you want the details of that, please contact me after the show. I'll send you a link to the eBay page. So lots of things happening, of course. Nigel, are you going to bring the other gentlemen up? Because it'd be nice to see them. I'll say most of them. We've also got Tim Richards with us. Good evening, Tim. How you doing, mate? Good, thank you. Happy New Year, everyone. And to you, my friend, and to you. Welcome back, my wingman Ian Nobly. Happy New Year to you, mate. How are you?
Good evening, Nick. Yes, and good evening, everybody. Happy New Year. It's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Look behind this bloke here. Paul Gear, welcome back. How many is this now? 3, 4?
Third one, yeah. Third back again.
One. And I reckon you get a new shirt every time you come on the show.
Well, whenever they release them, I buy them. So let's hope they stop because I'm running out of money.
How many in the collection?
I've got 89. I've got every shirt they've released 89. Since 1988.
So have you ever tried to put a sterling value on that?
Probably not. No, there's probably actually only two that are worth anything. One was the Cup Final replay shirt, which was very limited edition until they very kindly brought out a retro version, which sort of knocked all the value out of that, I imagine. And I got one when we won the championship in '94. They did a special limited edition one with an embroidered trophy on the shirt. So I got one of those, one of the 1,000 of those. So that could be worth saying. But the rest of them these days, like football programs, they produce so many, and everyone collects them. They don't really have much value. But it's just for my pleasure.
But the mortgage, you haven't paid the mortgage for the last 5 years, I bet.
Oh God, no! Yeah, I can't drink alcohol or anything. Spend money on it. Yeah.
For those of you interested, just to let you know, the young lad on the darts, thanks, John, is one set down to Cross, and Brighton and West Ham are still currently drawing 0-0. Just to show that we are absolutely live on your Facebook, on your YouTube, wherever you find us. Please like and subscribe. Tell the world about the Red and Blue Review. We are here for your pleasure. So what we're going to do, I think what we'll do, lads, is we're going to kick off. Who went to the Chelsea game out of the three of you? Did any of you go?
Not me.
Paul, you were there.
Oh, you there, Nick?
Yeah, that's right. It was. Do you know what? It was. Tim and I had a little chat off air. Was it yesterday, Tim? And we were talking about the fact that he's going to be covering the game in a second. And I think we were all pleasantly surprised of how good the performance was. I don't think we disgraced ourselves in any way. I mean, the penalty, Paul, we were at the other end of the ground. I didn't actually see what the incident was that led to their winning goal. But I think, in hindsight, having looked at it back since then, it was definitely a penalty. Could you see it clearly from your standpoint?
You only saw it coming together. You saw someone and a clash and them going down and all appealing like mad. I think the thing that gave it away a bit to us was we went straight down to our end and we got a corner, and Eze came over to take it, and he looked a bit sheepish. I think he knew what was coming, having made the tackle himself. So he was trying to sort of hide it, but I think it was always, once it was reviewed, it was always going to be given.
And the other thing that gave it away for me was actually, and it was quite significant, was the noise from the other end of the stadium. The Chelsea fans, bear in mind, they hadn't made any noise all bloody evening. Even when they scored, they still hadn't made any noise. What a disgrace of the fan base they are, by the way. I'm rowing. I digress, but I'm rowing with some bloke on the stand to our right. That he's sitting there. Okay, Chelsea just scored their first goal, and he's sitting there with a cup of tea. He didn't get up and cheer or anything. I'm going, tea, and I won't do the hand gesture that I did, but you know the one it was. He's sitting there with a cup of tea when your team had just scored. Oh, anyway, you could tell from the crowd's response that it was there was definitely going to be something in it. And you're right to point out about Eze, because I saw him when he came down to take that corner, and he was looking up back at the referee thinking, this is not going to go away. Anyway, so good evening, boys. Welcome and thank you for joining me this evening. Tim, I'm going to hand straight over to you, if you don't mind, and get into a short review of the Chelsea game, if you'd be so kind.
Cool. Yeah, no worries. First of all, greetings, Joey Porcelli. I hope that's right. A new fan from the US has joined us, so greetings, and hopefully you'll be a long-term fan. So the starting lineup, as we can see on the screen, I don't think there was any surprises with that, to be honest. Roy being Roy. So basically I've got to keep it short. So I'm not going to mention every single thing that happened. But I wanted to talk about a few points and more an overall feeling of the game, considering some of the performances we'd had before that. I think to start off with, a quote from Paul Parker, who was on commentary for London Live, or whoever it was that was doing the commentary. He actually said he could never remember seeing a Palace team pass the ball so much, and he would have thought that Palace were the home team. And up until 13 minutes, I think that's probably pretty bang on. I was very pleasantly surprised with how we were playing. Hodgson, masterclass, he got it straight, no problems at all. Up until the 13th minute, when Chelsea scored their first through Mudryk. Now, the only reason really they scored was because Klein fell over. He slipped over, left the space, the overlap, ball came across. It was disappointing that he was left basically, there were 4 Palace defenders around, but he was unmarked and he was in the middle, slotted the ball home. So 1-0 up to Chelsea. Game carried on, and again, I thought we played well. We had some good movement. Richards again, I mentioned Henderson, I thought in goal, had a good game. Richards again, another great game considering he's playing in a position that he's not used to playing. I thought he did really well. And Elise, it's a bit like the Elise show, wasn't it? He started and he was running their left back ragged. I mean, he was playing so well. And the rest of the first half pretty much carried on the same way. Both teams kind of going for it, but we definitely, I think, looked like that we were the better team. Even Mateta was holding the ball up. He was harrying. And again, it was a high press. And look what happens when you press teams, they don't like it. And it was good to see. The other thing I'd like to mention is Mitchell. Great covering. He's had some flat this year. But again, I thought the last few games he played really well. And again against Chelsea, he was in the right place covering and he stopped a goal. You know, it wasn't exactly a goal line clearance, but he got back and he knocked the ball away. Apart from that, really, Chelsea didn't offer very much. As the first half was coming towards an end, again, we were breaking. Mateta lost the ball. He was crowded out. It wasn't really his fault. But again, Richards, great tackle. Got in there, got the ball, Ayew. And finally, Ayew did what we've been pining for him to do, a first-time cross, and a real quality cross. Straight to the back post. There's Elise, unmarked, traps the ball on his chest down, first-time left foot shot, bottom corner. And the Chelsea fans hated it. It was great to see the hand gestures and then this, that, and the other. But superb. Great goal. The away end went mental, as did 3 Highfield plays Greenhithe. Superb goal. And again, just to finish off that first half, you've got to say what an effort, not only from the team but the support as well. It was great. All you could hear were the Palace fans. You barely heard Chelsea. I agree with Nick. Chelsea fans from like the cup semi-final a couple of years ago, 18 months ago, they were awful, and they've never been any different. So first half done. If any of you guys want to make any comments or bring up anything.
I think it's worth highlighting Chris Richards' tackle that won the ball in the midfield in the first place for the goal. I mean, it was superb, excellent. You know, he was really full on. He won the ball. And he passed it out wide to Ayew, who did the rest. But it was a super, you know, he plays well in that role, doesn't he? And he's brought a lot to the side since he's got his place in the team. So, you know, it really is worth highlighting his contribution to assist the assister, if you like, with our goal at Stamford Bridge.
Paul, your thoughts on Elise's goal?
That was a great goal. I mean, technically, I know the commentators were drooling a bit over it. I mean, his first touch on the chest, he killed it dead, and then to half volley it straight in from there. I mean, he seems to have stepped up a notch since he's come back. I don't know whether he was trying to prove a point to Chelsea with all the transfer stuff in the summer, but he really was. He was aggressive. He ran at them every time he got the chance, and he just seems to be on a mission since he's come back. To be honest, I mean, he's scored more goals since he's come back than he'd scored in the previous 2 seasons in the league. So. But yeah, it's a cracking goal and a great time to score. It really did, I would say, shut them up, but they were already quiet anyway. But yeah, gave us a real impetus for the second half, which, as Tim will probably come into, we did actually take into the second half, which was nice to see.
Okay, Tim, back to you, mate.
Yeah, so second half, as Paul said, kicks off pretty much the same as the first half. We were on the front foot. It was so pleasant and such a nice thing to see that, you know, Roy didn't do a usual Roy and let's hold on and not concede. We went for it, and again we started off. I can't remember how quickly it was, but a great move down the right hand side. Mateta, I don't know what's up with him at the moment, but the Chelsea defender gets far too close, and he just rolls in, knocks the ball on. Great turn speed. I didn't know he was that quick, but for a big man, he covered into the penalty area. Good effort, on target, caused a good save from the keeper. And then basically, I guess, and this is where I still have issues with Roy. We were covering a lot of ground, and I'm not sure if it's that the players were getting tired as the second half wound on. But Chelsea came more into it. They had a goal ruled off for offside. Shame. It was offside. I mean, no matter how thick you make the line, it was offside. But they carried on. We had a couple of chances. They had a couple of chances. Elise again brought another fine save from the Chelsea keeper. But then it came towards the end where Chelsea corner, ball comes across, wasn't really cleared too well. And as was already mentioned, it's interesting because Paul Parker on the commentary was saying, no way was that a penalty. He said, yeah, there was contact, but Eze didn't go towards him. Eze was stationary. The Chelsea player, more to my mind, yes, we would have been gutted if it wasn't given. But the Chelsea player left his leg there. He didn't have to. And he could have kept going and probably got a shot off, but he didn't. There was contact. He went down. But again, Razor Ruddock was saying as well about the Liverpool penalty that wasn't a penalty. Just because it's contact doesn't mean it's a foul. It's a contact sport. So, yeah, we would have been upset if that penalty hadn't been given for us. But Eze, I don't think, did too much wrong. He didn't go towards him. He was just stopped still. But penalty was given. He took it well. So basically, yeah, so that's it. We lost 2-1, but I thought we were brilliant. I thought we definitely deserved a point from the game. But I do say, with 70 minutes to go, it would have been really good if Roy had brought on some fresh legs, because I think we were just. I was going to put the power on. I think you were just basically run out. We just didn't have anything left, to be honest.
Nigel, you got some stats for us, mate, please? There you go. Probably what you would actually expect, but what surprised me there is 13 shots for Palace, 5 of which were on target. Was quite a scrappy game. I think the conditions made out that it was going to be that way. Quite a few fouls for both sides, as you can see. I'm interested, Nigel, can you go back to that shot of the manager, please, that you had on screen a second ago? Boys, so this is obviously pre the Brentford game. I'd like some honesty from all three of you, if you'd be so kind. At that point, okay, and nobody probably expected us to get too much out of the Chelsea game, and we did play reasonably well. I think it was a much better performance. At 90 minutes, the whistle's gone, or 100 minutes and the whistle's gone. Were you, he's gone, or were you, give him another few games? Ian Noble, you first.
Yeah, I was in the Roy out camp after that game, really. I just think not because of the results or not because of the way we've been playing, but because of Roy and his attitude to interviewers and his general demeanour. It looked as if he's had enough. Looked as if, I'm 76 years of age. I've been in management 47 years. I've got a CBE for my services to football. Why am I doing this now? I should be, putting my feet up and enjoying life. And I just don't think he's enjoying it. And that's why I thought he would part company with Crystal Palace Football Club. Maybe after the Brentford game. I thought he'd have the Brentford game. But I thought now would be a good time, given that, we want to progress in the cup, but we haven't got another league game for 3 weeks. It would be a good time to change the manager. And I thought he would walk, but providing the club had someone lined up. And I think that might be the sticking point. They just simply haven't. And Steve Parish has probably said to him, mate, you've got to keep going to the end of the season. We'll appreciate that. And you'll keep us up. So I think now, although I was thinking after that Chelsea game that he was going, I think now he will probably stay, notwithstanding the result, which we'll come on to talk about regarding the Brentford match. Okay,
Paul, I've never asked you this question, so fire away. Your thoughts on the manager's position, in or out at that point?
Well, he was always going to get the Brentford game. I think if he lost that, I think he would have probably been gone by now. I think you've got the excuse of losing at Chelsea, losing at Liverpool. All these results, we played well. If you don't play well and you get a bad result, then there's bad things. He will always be able to argue we had a good performance. I do think I didn't want Roy back in the summer. I think football has progressed from his tactics, and he showed us in the last few weeks, in a nutshell, why those are. As Tim said, we should have been at 70 minutes. We should have been bringing players on. Chelsea brought 3 or 4 players on at that time because they freshened it up, and we don't do anything about it. Eze hadn't played. He was coming back. It was first game. He shouldn't have been playing 90 minutes. That could have contributed to the penalty at the end. But I'm a big fan of França and all these other players. Ahmada, bring them on. Bring fresh legs on. I saw Chelsea on Christmas Eve at Wolves, and their defence was there for the taking. You put them under pressure and they wilt. And we should have been running at them and attacking them. But he's too cautious, and he always has been. And this is the big problem we all have with him. And this is why I probably think we need a more progressive manager at the end of the day. But as I've said before on this show, actually, while we have a 6-point buffer, he won't be going anywhere. The minute Luton or one of the bottom 3 get to within touching distance, which they were 3 points behind us, and there was a bit of unrest, that's when the talk will happen. But if he keeps the 6-point buffer, then they'll keep him happily. And as I say, so that's up. So in that respect, if he can keep winning these games that he needs to and keeps that just head above water, he'll be staying. And yeah, I personally think we need a new manager just for things like that. It's the last few games you've seen, even against Brighton, against Brentford, they bring players on the 60, 70 minute mark, and it does it galvanizes the team, it refreshes the team, gives something else to think about. And as you say, there's rumours that Elise pulled up the other day. He's played a lot of football, and maybe bring him off. I know he's on a hat trick and all this sort of stuff, but sometimes you have to take matters into your own hands. And these players, the reason we get these injuries probably is because they're being overplayed. They should be coming off with 10, 20 minutes to go, even rotating that round the team and just giving fresh. It gives you the subs coming on. They've got more experience when we do need them to play. And also it's resting these players up a bit, because the more you thrash them, we will get these injuries. But yeah, as they say, while he gets these results, he will stay in post. It's going to be interesting to see, as we'll come to with transfer windows and things like that, how that will affect that. But yeah, if he keeps us above the dreaded drop line with enough points to spare, he won't be going anywhere. And that's not down to his abilities. It's just down to, the opposition not threatening us.
Fascinating stuff, mate. Really enjoyed that. Thank you. Tim, Ian has alluded to his spikiness on some of the interviews. On the train on the way home from the Chelsea game, I was already aware, because people were tweeting it out, people that were actually in the interview room post-game, that he was really spiky with a couple of the interviewers. We've actually discussed it on the show over the last few weeks, how poor some of his responses have been, calling out the young kids and everything else. We're very lucky on this show to have a professional broadcaster in Tim Richards, who regularly appears on TalkSport. Tim, your thoughts on some of his interviews, please.
Well, I spoke to my agent about it. There's some interesting things coming up, but he's definitely had enough, and who can blame him? I mean, the amount of games, how he's seen his football change over the years and to what it is now with VAR. I mean, I'm sure, or I know Ian will talk about it on Saturday, 4 minutes for that first goal. But what I find so frustrating with Roy, and why I think he has to go, is take the Man City game, for example. With, 15 minutes to go, he was forced to make changes. He brought França on and a couple of others, and look at the change, the difference it made to the game. We ended up getting 2-2. Now, I would want my manager to go, hold on. We gave them a go against the best club side in the world, and that's what they did. Let's give them another go. Let's try it again. But no, on the subs bench, no change. Same squad going out. For me, that's why he has to go, because they won't be able to get somebody else, which is why we ended up with him in the first place. So it's all very well saying he's got to go, but you've got to replace him. You've got to have another manager that will take the job. And nobody of any quality wants the job, and we all know why.
It's the same old story. We had this discussion 18 months ago, boys, talking about succession planning. So there you go. But one thing that he will be forced into, and we will do the Brentford game in a minute, Ian, I promise you. One thing he will be forced into this week, of course, is probably playing França and giving França a free role, simply because Ayew has now gone off to the AFCON. Is that the right swap over, Ian, of personnel?
Yeah, it depends on the opposition. But yeah, I'd like to see França get a start. Many will make a case for Jeffrey Schlupp. I thought he might be going to AFCON as well, but I don't think he is. I think he's staying behind. He's not going, is he? No.
I think so.
So the probably the Roy replacement would be Schlupp, probably, for Ayew, or even Edouard if Edouard's fit. Edouard can play left as well. So certainly he's got to make some changes with Ayew not being available. And when it comes to the FA Cup, I think. We'll talk more about this later, but I don't think we'll see Michael Elise either in that selection, because he has got a tight hamstring, and the rumour is that he needs to be rested, as Paul said earlier. He's played too much football too quickly, and to make sure he's available for that Arsenal fixture, which is arguably more important than the Everton FA Cup tie. So I think those two players will be missing. Therefore, it gives others an opportunity. But other than that, I think he'll go full strength in the FA Cup. What he should do anyway, given the time lapse between that and the next game.
Thank you. Everybody out in Facebook land and YouTube, I can see your comments going through, each and every one of them. Sam, I've just seen your comment, agreeing with Ian. You think Schlupp will go straight back in. I don't know whether that's the right answer. In fact, if Ayew's not playing, and obviously, Ayew's not playing, and Elise is injured, maybe there's actually a position for both of those to come in. So we'll see. Okay, so that's the Chelsea defeat. It was a good performance. I'm not going to be negative about it. As Tim mentioned, I thought the crowd were excellent. For the first time in years, I actually went to that game with one of my sons, and it's one of my sons that doesn't normally go because he's a Chelsea fan, and we stood together. And all he wanted to do, because he hadn't been to a game, he hadn't seen a Chelsea game for years, he actually wanted to experience what the Palace crowd are like when they score. Obviously, he hears a lot about the Palace crowd, and he also wanted to experience what the Chelsea crowd was like when they scored. And bearing in mind he's a Chelsea fan, and he was witnessing me having this discussion, shall we say, with this particular Chelsea supporter 50 yards away. And he said, "Dad, they are appalling. As a Chelsea fan, they are embarrassing." Yeah. Well, and I couldn't agree with him more. He's got James has got quite a sensible head on his shoulders, and I have to say to you, they were just and we were seeing what were we seeing to them, Paul? 1-0, and you still don't sing.
Yeah,
because they were just crap. They were just garbage. Anyway, so that performance then led us quite nicely into the home game against Brentford. Now, my thought process on this particular fixture is, why is anybody going to the game? Why couldn't anybody be bothered to go to this match? Because we know it's going to be a draw. Historic. I mean, I don't think there's been any other result in the Premier League, in our Premier League era. Paul, is that right?
5 draws out of 5 it was, yeah.
5 draws out of 5, thank you. So, to me, it was a banker score draw in that game. Well, I'm delighted to say, Mr. Noble, over to you. You're about to tell us differently.
Yes, indeed. I think there were 3-1-1s and 2-0-0s in that. And there you have our panel and Yasmin and Kimberly pre-match in the main stand before the Brentford game. So Tim's still wearing the same T-shirt. He's only got one T-shirt. But there we go. Another T-shirt, somebody. Have a whip round. Get me another T-shirt.
This is a horrible thing, you know.
Bullying, Tim. Just plain bullying, mate.
The first thing to say is that Brentford turned us around. I hate that when that happens at Selhurst, don't you? I just can't stand it. They win the toss and they make us, attack the homestand in the first half. A game starts and it couldn't have started any worse, could it? Well, before we get into the game, let's talk a little bit about the lineup. There it is on the screen in front of you. For those listening on the pod, it's Henderson, Klein, Gahey, Anderson, Mitchell, Lerma, Richards, Elise, Eze, or Eza, I should say, Ayew and Mateta. No change from the Chelsea game 3 days earlier. Same lineup. And, we start, we're at home to Brentford. High expectations, of course, in that kind of game. We go into that game thinking, yes, it's the kind of game we should be winning. And yes, we've got this history of these drawn games against them. And within 2 minutes, we're 1-0 behind. And I think we were just caught cold. I think Anderson was partly culpable. He could have cut it out. I think Mitchell was partly culpable. Gahey was partly culpable here, where, all three of those players could have, on another day, further into the game, maybe cut the ball out and got a touch to it to avoid the cross or cut the cross out. But the guy finished it well, double-barreled name playing for Brentford. And then, as Tim said earlier, we had about a 4-minute wait with VAR to check to see whether it was offside. It's absolutely shocking. And if you're in the ground and you're experiencing this, it's just not nice. And I think it's the first time ever I've heard both sets of fans berating VAR, telling the officials and everyone else what they think of VAR while that was going on. And you do think when it's against you, you're sort of hoping, I suppose, that because it's taken such a long time, they've found an angle and it's going to be offside. But the goal was obviously given, and we're 1-0 behind. Now, I don't know about anyone else, but I wasn't overly concerned. I was thinking, okay, we're 1-0 down, but I still think we'll do all right here. And I said to the guy I was sitting next to, I said, we're going to win 4-1 here. This will be 4-1. And I wasn't far off, to be fair. And it really was. We talked about him in the Chelsea game, but it really was the Michael Elise show. Michael Elise was unplayable in this game against Brentford. He was absolutely magnificent. The first goal, he made it himself. He crossed it deep from the right to the left. Ayew crosses it back in. It's a perfect ball in. and he catches it on the volley there with the outside of his left foot. He still had an awful lot to do here. There was a magnificent goal, and this is after just 13 minutes. So, literally 9 minutes after the VAR decision's been made to make it 1-0, we're back on level terms. And once we're back on level terms, suddenly the momentum is with us, not with Brentford. And it wasn't long before we made further attacks. Mitchell got into the box. He played the ball into the box. Mateta, what a nice little dummy! Did he dummy it? Did he mean to? Of course he did.
Was that deliberate, boys? Was that deliberate?
He just missed it, didn't he? But Eze got hold of this, puts it on his left foot, sweet as you like, into the corner, 2-1, and that was on 39 minutes. Crystal Palace, at that time, we really looked like a team in the ascendancy, as if we were going to go on and win the game. And we go in at half time and we turned it around from 1-0 down to 2-1. So, it's going well. Second half starts and Elise has another shot that was saved. What else am I saying to my notes here? Then the third goal came. It was Gahey. He got into the midfield. He passed it to Elise. He still had a lot to do. Cuts it inside on his left foot and makes it 3-1 on 58 minutes. More Elise magic to Eze in a central position. Shot was saved. And then a 3-1, we sat back a bit, I think. And Ray Loonson was on the sideline trying to get the Palace team not to sit back as deep and trying to move them up the pitch. That's right. And we sat back a bit, and it was that horrible little player that used to play on the South Coast. He got hold of it and he hit the bar. To be fair, it was a really cracking effort, and he was a bit unlucky, and the ball bounced back into play. We then had an Elise free kick from the left-hand side. Anderson headed just wide. That wasn't far away at all. I think a lot of people sort of missed that one. And then Henderson's wonder save towards the end. Absolutely top draw. This isn't the best photograph of it. I don't know what he does that photo, Nige, but somehow he clawed that away. That is vintage Gordon Banks, isn't it?
Yeah, it's brilliant save, isn't it?
Yeah, if anyone remembers Gordon Banks, it's the kind of save he was making for England back in Mexico 1970, clawing the ball away when actually everyone else thought the ball was in the back of the net. And it was just tremendous. And that really kept us in the game to win the game 3-1. We could have had more goals. We were the better side. I messaged a mate of mine who I used to play football with regularly. He's a Brentford fan. He was in the away end, and I messaged him after the game, and I said, "How are you feeling about that? Do you think it's right?" And he said, "Well, the difference was Elise and Eze. They were just unplayable, and well done you." To be fair, he did say he felt it was probably the worst he'd seen Brentford since they had been promoted. Which he's going to say that, isn't he? Maybe, but they're without their talisman, Mbumo. Obviously, Tony hasn't played all season. He's back now for them shortly. And they've other players out, like I think Ben Mee was missing as well. So there are other players that would normally get in their side that they had injuries as well. The other thing to say probably is that it was only the third time this season that both Elise and Eze had started together. Luton away, Chelsea away, and now for the first time at Selhurst Park. And it was the first time both of them had completed 90 minutes together. I think. Oh no, Chelsea was the same. But Chelsea was the first time they did that. But I think if you get the two of them together clicking, then we've got every chance of pushing on. As I said earlier, the Elise hamstring, just a little bit of a scare at the end there, and hopefully he's going to be okay for the next league game. So there's the stats, roughly 50-50. They had slightly edged it. Brentford, Brexit style, 52 in favour. 13 shots for us, and everything else is fairly even. So, great win. The kind of win, as I said, we'd expect to get at the beginning of the season. And when you look back on the previous games, I said this to someone online, you play Liverpool at home, City away, Brighton at home, Chelsea away. Those 4 games, would you have necessarily expected to get more than a couple of points from those games? When you look at them pre-game, you might not have done. So it's not the end of the world. And as we said earlier too, we're playing quite well in those games. And we brought that into the Brentford game and we got the result. We still had a performance as well. So I think it bodes quite well, for the next set of fixtures. So I, for one, am fairly bullish. My glass is half full. And I'll say, well done, lads. Good result.
He's gone from a red wine to a glass of water. Right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Magic again. Back to red wine.
Thank you for that, Ian. Before we move on to the next segment, I am aware that our very good friends from the DSA, the Disabled Supporters Association, Bruce and Lindsay, are both watching the show this evening. Good evening to you. And as if by magic, a slide appears. Look at that. The CPFC DSA social evening. Children are welcome. It's Saturday, the 13th of January at 7 p.m. at Speroni's at Selhurst Park. You don't have to be a disabled supporter. You don't even have to have a member of your family that is disabled. You are welcome along. And we've been to one of these events. Ian and I have been blessed to be invited to one of these events. And I'm telling you now, if you've never attended one of their things, it's fantastic. They are lovely people, super people that do a cracking job. Guest speaker, raffle quiz. You can find more information at info@cpfcdsa.org. That's info@cpfcdsa.org. Please, if you get the opportunity to go down there, look, Lindsay's already messaging us back in the chat. We will always support you, Lindsay. You have mine and the team's word. Any events? Oh, Lindsay, I did get asked a question, as I know you're there. What did the boot go for? Was the question I got asked. What did the boot? And Bruce, you're not blushing. I'm telling you now. What did the boot go for? Was the question I was asked on social media. If you can answer us in the chat, I'll read it out in a second. Sam White saying, "Will I be the guest speaker?" No, I don't think so. Tired of the sound of my own voice. I normally leave that sort of thing to Ian Noble, who's pretty good. Right, boys, I'm about to scare the life out of you. Okay, hold tight. We've just sold Michael Elise and Eze in this transfer window. What happens to our world? Ian Noble.
It's the end.
I thought you were serious for a minute. No, of course you're not serious. What happens to our world? Well, that's it's just not on, basically. They're not for sale. Someone said, "How much is Michael Elise worth?" I said, "It's priceless at the moment." Yes, of course he'll go to a bigger club at some point. Everyone's talking about him. He's certainly not doing himself any harm at the moment. His appearances and the quality of his play, adding goals to his game. I don't think the club would let them both go at the same time. That's the first thing I would say. I think they would absolutely dig their heels in and say, no, one of you can go, but the other one's not. And it's probably more likely to be Elise that goes first now. But it won't happen until the summer. And if it does, it's going to be for big money. Big money. I'm talking 80 million plus, maybe 100 mil.
Breaking news, Paul. Mark Geehee and Czech Decore have also just been sold. What happens to our world, Paul?
Well, I'm not going to lie. Czech Decore gets sold at the moment. It's probably not the end of the world because he's not going to play again this season. Mark Geehee gets centre backs. We're a little bit more safe in that respect. But again, they're going to go at some point, and we do have cover in that area. Chris Richards has shown he's a good centre back. So, if you wanted to raise money and have the least effect on the team, you want to sell one of those two, to be honest. But yeah, we don't want to be selling anyone in January. I know, like any club, if you get a ridiculous bid, then you have to consider it. But we're not in a position to do that. If we want to bring in a new manager in the summer, we need to say this is the squad you're going to have. They can look whatever. But if you start decimating it now, they don't know what they're going to come into, and we won't spend the money. We're not going to buy anyone significant in the transfer window simply because of the manager situation. So we're looking at loans. They've already said that. And you just have to look at last year. We bought Patrick. We did buy one player. We bought a Hamada for Vieira. And then when Vieira went, Hodgson came in, didn't touch him. And he's not really touched him since. So that's proof of the pudding. You don't buy players for a manager you're not going to keep. So that's why they're looking at loans. And as I say, if you're going to buy a player, you've got to get Hodgson's buy-in, because if you don't get his buy-in, he's not going to play him. So it's a waste of money. Look at França. And if you're getting a Hodgson player, then it's for a Hodgson type team. And I don't really think we want that going forward, do we? We want a different style of team, so a different style of player. So if they don't get anyone on loan, it's a bit negligent, to be honest. The squad, they know it needs it. So it'll be very, very disappointing if they don't get anyone. So they have to get loans, really. And yeah, it's interesting to see where they target. But certainly selling anyone would be very sort of the most astronomical bid. Selling anyone would be very silly business right now. They'll all be worth whatever they're worth now. They'll be worth in the summer simply because their contracts are long enough now. We've actually done some competent work there for once. So it's not like we're having to sell someone quickly because their contract's running down. So yeah, selling someone would be foolhardy.
For those of you who are interested, the young fella Littler is now 3-1 up in the darts, and it's still 0-0 in the 54th minute in the West Ham Brighton game. Tim, can you see a scenario where one of those big four that I've just mentioned does get sold this window?
I don't think we can afford to let anyone go. To be fair, our squad's as thin as it is so thin anyway. And what concerns me is even if we did sell one of those, two of those, and got big money, there's no way that money would actually get used to buy replacement players. So we can't afford, if we want to stay in the league, we can't. Our squad's too thin. We can't afford to let anyone like that go. I could see Mateta going. To be fair, if anyone's going to go. But also, we had an interesting conversation on Saturday, and I would say the highlight of my Saturday afternoon at Selhurst Park with Ian Noble getting told to sit down by a rather angry lady behind us. That was highly entertaining. But the conversation was Zaha, not in the Galatasaray side, not very happy. Loan. We can only do loans. He's damn sight better than any strikers we've got at the moment. Would you have him back for the rest of the season?
Before I let Ian answer that, good evening, Mike Howe. Great having that chat with you yesterday, mate. Love to the family. Zaha question, Ian?
No. Zaha's been and gone once and come back. Zaha, we just got to accept that Wilf has moved on for good. I don't think we're going to see Wilfried Zaha back in a Palace shirt ever again. It was great, but he's not coming back to us. That's what I believe. He doesn't fit the mould of young players at Crystal Palace with saleable value in the future. So I don't buy into that one at all. The other player that's been linked with a move away that you haven't mentioned, Nick, is Joachim Andersen. Newcastle are very interested in Joachim Andersen, right side of centre back, and I worry about that one because I think he's equally as valuable as Mark Gahey. I don't think there's much to choose between them, really. One's an English international, one's a Danish international. I think they're both as good as each other. And so I think that Joachim Andersen needs to be in that conversation as well. But let's hope. I saw some comments go through in the chat saying that I don't think we'll see any sales in this window. And the other one that you mentioned, Tim, Jean-Philippe Mateta, with the window approaching, suddenly he's playing better, and he's suddenly looking like the player we wanted him to be. He played really, really well against Brentford on Saturday. He played well against Chelsea, and he didn't get any assists or goals in those games, but he was instrumental in holding the ball up and bringing others into play and being a nuisance. I mean, that big centre half from Brentford knew he'd been in a game on Saturday against Mateta. He really did. What was great to see when he came off with a massive smile on his face. He's clearly enjoying his football, which I think is half the battle, with these players. They get paid lots of money. They don't even need to play, do they? They can sit on a bench and earn, 50 grand a week or something. But, when they're enjoying it as well, I think that's, breeds confidence, and they want to get out on the pitch the next game. They want to play, and they want to do everything they can and put a shift in for the shirt. So,
Paul, final word, please, on the Zaha thing. I notice he's not even starting these days for Galatasaray. And when he is playing, he's not playing very well. And he hasn't gone to the AFCON either. Not for the Ivory Coast. Your last thoughts on the Zaha question?
No, again, as Ian said, we're past that now. I think firstly he'd want too much money, probably take up a lot of budget that we would be possibly using for other people. And again, we need to be looking to the future. We do have players who can play on the left. The young chap we spent £20 million on, so we should be probably focusing on trying to get him up to speed in the team rather than bringing back players on a short term for a few months who will be gone again in the summer, no doubt. And then you've got to start all over again with these players. So yeah, I don't think he should be going. Just going back to Joachim Andersen, the only concern we have with him is if we haven't mentioned the other side of that. If these players want to go, now he actually spoke out against the manager a few weeks ago, didn't he? By saying we've got these players on the bench, we should be bringing them on. So that's the other side of the coin. If a player comes to you and says I want to go, then at some point you probably do have to say, well, okay, let's see if we can get as much money for him as we can. But hopefully that won't be the case. They're all hopefully looking forward to a new broom in the summer, and they've been convinced hopefully it'll be an exciting one. But yeah, it's always a troubling time, the transfer window for us, because it always does seem to be one way, players out rather than in.
That's the players potentially going out. I'd like to talk to you. I mean, I know we've already alluded to the fact that it's likely to only be loans, but give me your priorities, boys. What we need to do first. Go.
So we talked a little bit about this on a previous show, but I think we need to replace Czech Doucouré. We've already said Czech Doucouré is not going to kick another ball for us probably this season. So I would bring in a defensive midfielder, and that defensive midfielder, providing it doesn't break the bank, is Calvin Phillips, because he needs to play football in the Premier League to give himself a chance of going to the Euros. Now we know that Gareth Southgate likes him. He's picking him in that England squad, even when he's not kicking the ball for Man City. Downside is, would he want to come to London? He's a northerner by definition, and he always plays football in the north. He's a young lad still, but I'd have him. I'd have him and put him straight in our team as cover for Doucouré, providing that he doesn't bust the wage budget.
Sam White is saying in the chat, Sam, you're on fire this evening. Lerman definitely needs another holding player next to him. Tim, where do we need to go first?
I think, to be honest, right left back, we need cover there. I mean, how many goals this year have we let in because of that? And then it's one injury. Mitchell picks up an injury. Already looking at Klein, bless him, he's past it. For me, yeah, right left back. Richards can play the holding midfield role. He's shown he can do that. And I think we've got other positions that are more needy at the moment for cover, especially up front. That holding midfielder would be nice, but I think there's other positions that are more important.
Paul, I haven't got my figures exactly to hand, but the summer transfer window, the Premier League spend was something like £2.5 billion. Okay. We spent £32 million on two players, a goalkeeper that you could arguably say we didn't need, and a young Brazilian, untried and untested. Now, 32 million against 2.5 billion, I don't think is a 20th of the spend in the league. We must have money to spare somewhere.
You'd have thought so. Certainly on the loan market, when we were prepared to offer Will for 200 grand a week last summer, which didn't really go anywhere. So that must be sort of sat there burning a hole for wages if you're not going to sign anyone. But yeah, they have said if the right player comes a pint, they will buy it. So there is obviously money there, and it's false economy not to. If you see a good deal for a player that's obviously going to be in future plans for any manager or whatever, and it's going to help the team, then you go for it. But there aren't too many of those about, which is the problem. So I think we're looking at the loans. I mean, I'm not the biggest Calvin Phillips fan, I'm not going to lie, so I wouldn't be overly worried about getting him. There's talk of him going to PSG anyway, and I think without going off onto England, I think if he didn't kick another ball all season on the Man City bench, Gareth would take him. I mean, he's going to take Henderson from Saudi Arabia, so it doesn't matter where he's playing or if he's playing, to be honest. So I personally think we probably need a striker. The system we play with Roy, we showed at Chelsea. If we had a striker at Chelsea last week, you can play as defensive as you want. If you have someone to take that chance, then you can get a point or three. And it's ironic. 2 years ago, Mateta, there was talk of him being shipped out then. He suddenly picked up in form, scored about 6 goals in 8 games, and we all kept him and it was great. And it's great that he's doing it again this time, because he's turned into a different player the last few weeks, whether that's because he's got some confidence and he's playing regularly, we don't know. But None. I wouldn't if he went clean through on goal. Same with Edouard. I wouldn't probably back them to score a goal. So if we could get a deadlier striker, even on loan, just someone who can take a few chances, then if Roy's going to play the way he does, then yeah, we could sneak games because we take the odd chance we create. So that's probably my priority. But then the rest of it, as you say, is just squad depth. As you say, a couple of fullbacks, a fullback who can play either side, midfielder, just in case we do get the injury crisis that we've had at the start of the season.
But who would you get in? I can't think of anyone. I don't disagree with you, Paul.
No. Well, this is the age-old problem. And there's a lot of talk about the striker from PSG we were trying to get in the summer. He could possibly be a loan option. But yeah, but this is the big problem, and this is why Dougie Freeman.
West Ham are sniffing around him as well, Paul, just in case. West Ham are sniffing around. What's his name? Zaki or something?
Ekitaki.
So West Ham. So you know that if Palace and West Ham are lining up side by side, you know where it'll go to because they'll pay the wages. Tim, you wanted to make a point.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Ian Lyons often says, it's not a matter or a case of how much you spend; it's what you're spending your money on. As we said before, a prime example is, I forget, was it Arsenal or Newcastle bought White, the Brighton defender, for 52 million. For that same money, we got Eze, Olise, Gahey, Anderson, and Gallagher on loan. It's not about how much you spend, but for me, what concerns me is the type of player or calibre of player we're going to attract. Because of the manager situation, knowing that Hodgson's going, knowing the kind of football that Hodgson plays, are we going to find it difficult to attract players that can come into the team? Because also the money that we can spend on players, even on loan, they're not going to be the 80, 90 million pound player that can walk into a team and almost instantly make a difference. We're going to spend nowhere near that. So the players we're going to attract aren't going to be the finished article, probably aren't going to be ones that can come straight into a team and make the difference. So it's a difficult one.
There's quite a lot of people in the chat saying Eddie Nketiah. That's a good shout, actually. You know, I'm not sure Arsenal will let him go. He's still getting game time at Arsenal at the moment. He's not starting, but he comes on for Jesus.
As Paul Bristow says, if Tony goes to Tony goes to Arsenal.
And the other one at Arsenal is Reece Nelson. You know, again, he's a good young player. He's not getting much game time at Arsenal. He's a forward player, so maybe him even. You know,
I did hear that we put interest in for Nketiah with Arsenal recently, and they shut it down straight away. But yeah,
I think that's based again on their dealings. There's going to be a few clubs looking around, and as the window goes on, we know we don't like it dragging on to the end. Sometimes it has to for these reasons. Moves will start the roundabout, and as I said, I think in the last show, Arsenal need a striker. It's even more so after their last results, and I think Tony's sat there waiting for them. He's an Arsenal fan, I believe, so he's waiting to be picked up by them. And then someone like Nketiah is going to be available, and I think he's as good a shout as any. He's mobile, he's quick, he runs around a lot, and he gets onto long balls. So, but that's the thing. So it depends on who the other teams buy that could kick off a chain, which could get some good players we could potentially snap up.
Okay, well, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you, boys. I've enjoyed watching you squirm when I've asked you difficult questions this evening, lads. Okay, in fact, I think it's actually quite entertaining. So let's do it again. Right. So who is culpable is the question. Now, we know that Roy's going to go. We know that Roy's struggling. We know Roy's had a tough few weeks. Yes, he got a win on Saturday. But the names that we've been linked with, and there's a whole list of them, okay, it's just paper talk, okay? We haven't actually got anybody ready in the wings lined up. If it was as simple as the Potter thing, okay, that we're waiting for the Potter contract to run down at the end of the season, I'd accept it, okay? But it's not. We ain't going to get Potter not in a million years. I'd be massively surprised if we did. Okay, Nigel, you can clip that, and when they unveil Potter at the start of the new season, you can shove it up your backside, okay? But we ain't going to get Potter. That would be everybody's perfect appointment. I think we'd all probably agree. But there was a list of names that have been bandied around by the press. Who is culpable for not having a succession plan in place? Paul.
Dougie Freeman. That's his job. His job. We should have a list of every position on the pitch. We should have a list of every position off the pitch. Not just because of we sacking someone. Roy Hodgson could walk in tomorrow and say, "I want to leave." Tyrick Mitchell could come and say, "I want to leave on a transfer request." We should have a list of 3 people at least in every position at the club, even down to the tea lady, of who we would bring in in the event of needing to bring one in the midst quickly. So, I mean, and again, I don't think they're that negligent that they don't have these lists. I think there's a wish list, but again, we run into the problem where do these people on the wish list want to come? So we do have these things there, but yeah, there certainly needs to be someone who can sell the club properly to these people, because there's too many occurrences where people we want or supposedly want don't want to come, and we know there's potential reasons for that, but we need to get past this because we're looking for a manager. We need to be able to sell this club and get a decent manager in, and same with bringing players in. So yeah, Doogie should have a list of managers in case Roy decides to leave tomorrow or we decide to dispense with him.
Thank you. I know, by the way, incidentally, who would replace the tea lady? It'd be that tosser of a Chelsea fan I saw the other night. Ian, who is culpable, please?
Yeah, I'd go with Paul to a large extent, but I think who's culpable is probably Parish and the board, because they're the people that make the decisions on the manager. I think it's a bit different with a manager compared to players. They needed to have identified people. I mean, goodness me, they've had since the summer to think about it, haven't they? I mean, Roy came in to do a temporary job for 10 games and did that job and kept us up. And then we didn't have a manager for about a month, 6 weeks or something like that before they decided to go back to Roy, which Paul's already said he disagreed with. So did I. I didn't want it. I just thought it was delaying the inevitable, that, he can't go on forever. And, we needed to get another coach in, another manager to lead the club. And whether it was just that we didn't have that person in the summer, therefore Roy was the easy option. That's probably what happened. But now, surely, they've got to have that person or people lined up. There's the boy Lopetego, who was at Wolves. He's been linked with us as well. He was quite demanding, I think, of Wolves, which is why it didn't work out there with them. So I'm not sure I like the idea of that. We've been linked with the Ipswich manager. I can't even remember his name, but
his name is McKenna. Okay, and Sam White. Can I just jump in there, Ian, on that subject? Sam White has said, and this is the only thing, Sam, that I'm going to pull issue with you, what you've said tonight. He said, I like McKenna at Ipswich, young and has fresh ideas, and he likes his teams to play. If Ipswich don't get promoted, it wouldn't break the bank for us to get him, surely. Great point on your last bit, but as Nigel quite rightly said, producer Nigel said earlier on, he hasn't wiped his feet in the Premier League. You can't appoint somebody. So sorry, Ian, I interrupted.
No, I agree with you. And why would he want to come to us when he's got halfway through a project of getting Ipswich promoted back to back from League One through the Championship into the Premier League? I don't think he would want to come to us now. Obviously, money talks, and I don't know how much money he's on at Ipswich Town. But I think the point that Sam makes, which is a really, really good one, is that if Ipswich don't get promoted, then he's the kind of manager we could go in for, and it will be taking a risk because he hasn't got Premier League experience. And I've always said that we need a manager with experience in the Premier League. We're not a new club to the Premier League. This will be next season, season 12, won't it? I think. We need someone with experience of this division, or at least a top division in Europe. Yeah. What about Paddy? Bruce Muirhead says no. Not Paddy McCarthy. It's even worse because he hasn't got the experience of managing on this level, and the pressure of the job is tremendous, absolutely tremendous. Everything they do and say is scrutinised, and you need that experience.
Interesting stuff. Nice. We were talking pre-show about the next show that we're going to do. Could you pop that up on screen for us, please, mate? And then the fixtures. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to give you, because we know it's January, we know most of you will now be doing dry January, so you won't be getting pissed on Friday night because A, you haven't got any money, and B, we're in dry January. So we have a little special for you on Friday evening. We're going to do a post-Everton FA Cup game at 8 o'clock on Friday, the 5th of January. So be sure to tune in and join us for that, okay? Nigel, let's have a look at the upcoming fixtures, if you'd be so kind. Because in those that you are not aware, okay, we have a little bit of a gap coming up, but do we? Because the boys were discussing this pre-show. You'll see that the first game on there is the Everton game, Thursday evening, 8 o'clock. But the next game following that is the break to the 20th of January, which is where we're away at the Emirates Stadium, Arsenal. However, we've worked out pre-show that should, for any reason, Thursday night's game be a draw of any description, they will shoehorn the replay up at Goodison Park between the Everton and the Arsenal games. Ian, you actually came up with a suggested date for that. What were you saying?
Yeah, I think it's Tuesday the 16th or Wednesday the 17th. It will be the midweek before the Arsenal fixture, the replay. If it's a replay. I mean, and look, we could be out of the FA Cup before every other Premier League team's kicked a ball.
Indeed.
Kicking off on Thursday night. I hope we're not. I hope we're still in it. But,
There's Mr. Positive for you, ladies and gentlemen.
It's a stupid kick-off time. But, as I said on Twitter, it's a stupid kick-off time. It's on terrestrial TV. But get yourself down to Selhurst Park. Apparently, Everton have sold 9,000 tickets for this game. They've got the whole of the half away. So we've been told. Let's fill the rest of the ground and make a lot of noise. And, there's only 4 games till we go to Wembley in a semi-final. 4 games. I bet you those people that aren't going on Thursday night will want a ticket for Wembley. I guarantee that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're not going, or if you weren't planning on getting yourselves down to Selhurst Park, ladies and gentlemen, on Thursday evening, let's get there. Don't forget, we're live on telly. We want to show the world what we're good at. And you won't do that by sitting on your arse in your living room. Sorry, Nigel. Pop those fixtures back up. So we have some winnable games. We've got an easy game at the Emirates, as I've already alluded to. That'll be a nice, simple one. Sheffield United at home. Then the big clash down on the south coast against that lot. And by the way, 75 minutes gone, they're still drawing 0-0 with West Ham. Then we're at home to Chelsea. Now, we know Chelsea are not a fantastic team. Yes, they beat us the other day, but they weren't brilliant. They weren't the Chelsea of old. And then another trip up to Goodison Park. So we could end up going up to Goodison Park twice within a month. So you never know, depending on what happens on Thursday night. So there's your fixtures coming up. Lots to look forward to. Boys, have I missed anything out? Nigel,
Super Six.
Over to you, Mr. Noble.
Yeah, so we thought, we're halfway through the season and we don't talk about this every show, but we thought we'd just talk about the Super Six and FPL. So Super Six, first of all, Darren Depledge, congratulations to you. You are top of our Super Six league. But look, Paul Gear, you're in 6th. Andrew Adams in the chat of a lot of groups. So I see he's 3rd. Jason Cader, we know, is there. Who else? Let's have a look. Nigel, our producer Nigel, is there in 12th place. Where am I? Oh, I'm down in 17th. Where's Nick? Oh, he's down in 21st. There we are. That's the top of our Super 6 league, guys. Well done. And this is the top of our Red and Blue Review FPL league. I'm only highlighted because it was my account that we took this off. But we have 230 odd members in this league. Paul Gear, real panel, playing for Chubbs. You are 3rd. And where are you in the world at the moment, ranked?
I think about 73,000 out of 10.5 million.
73,000 in the world. That is impressive, my friend. And the leader of this, Avengers, Kareb. Does anyone know Kareb? I don't know Kareb. Anyway, he's in our mini league and he's doing rather well. And he's 18,000 in the world. So congratulations to you out of 10 million players. I'm up to 14th, so I'm actually quite chuffed with that. I've got 90 points, still got Bowen to play, but he's only got 10 minutes left to get me a goal. So it's not looking good for Bowen owners in FPL at the moment. But yeah, so well done to everyone for taking part. It's a bit of fun. It's only a game, but it is important and it's deadly serious FPL, isn't it, Paul?
Oh, yes.
Thanks. I've got no idea what you've just been talking about. I mean, the Super Six, I send out me reminders to you lot every week in a couple of the chats, but I quite enjoy that one. That FPL is way beyond me. Okay, then let's do that. Tim, predictions for Thursday night, please.
2-1.
Is that home win, yeah? In that order?
Yeah,
okay.
Go on. Seeing the Spurs in here, I'll go for 2-1, yeah.
Go on in. Okay, Mr. Noble.
2-0 Palace.
Mr. Gear.
I'm going for a 1-0 defeat because I think we're going to play a very weak team and Everton won't.
Okay.
Do you?
Well,
Why do you think? Well, why do you think we're going to play a weakened side?
Because Roy doesn't care about cups. He never has, and I don't think he ever will. His priority is clearly the league, and we, as I say, we do have a break coming up. But there's players. Eze's still coming back to fitness. Obviously, Elise won't be risked, and he won't play the youngsters. He won't play the people on the bench. He's reluctant to do it in the league unless he's forced to. He can do it in this game with no pressure. He'll play. I think he'll play a few of them on the basis that the result actually doesn't matter, and I think it will backfire.
Well, yeah, I hope you're wrong, because I just think I can understand if we had a league game the following Saturday, but we haven't. And, it's such a long break to the next game. I think you're right about Elise, as I said earlier. I don't think I'll risk him. And, of course, Ayu's missing. But other than that, I hope we go full strength. I really do. And that's what I'll do.
We can't afford the injuries. This is the problem. And
well, we can't, but neither can any Premier League team. This is the FA Cup.
Other leagues, other teams have got better squads and can cope with injuries. I'm looking at West Ham and Brighton tonight. They've got pretty threadbare squads out, but they're still pretty strong. And let's say we did lose Gahey, did lose Lerma. We're just too reliant on too many people, and I think it's just a risk not worth taking. Sadly, this year, when you're in mid-table and you're happy and you're comfortable, fine, go for the cup. But
that's got Richards and Hughes written all over it, isn't it? For those of you who are interested, I had to appear on a Everton fanzine website thing chat earlier on today, and I did my usual prediction for that game, and that'll be coming out on social media probably in the next hour. I just had a message from them saying thanking me for my appearance, and I, like Tim Richards, also went for a 2-1 home win. And if you remember, the last time I did it, I called it the Decore, the Battle of the Decores, and it was the Decore game where Czech got carried off. So hopefully my prediction comes right this time. Boys, fascinating chats tonight, I've got to tell you. Sorry if I threw some questions at you weren't expecting tonight, but I think you handled yourselves professionally and brilliantly. Well done. So our next show is Friday night, live at 8 o'clock. Don't know who's in the chair yet. Don't know who's going to be on the panel yet. And I don't care. We've got a game before that. Thank you, gentlemen, for your company this evening. Really enjoyed it. Everybody in Facebook land and Twitter land and YouTube land, I'm also blessed with your company. Thank you very much. On behalf of myself, Nick Philpott, and this brilliant panel of mine, I wish you a safe week. Take care and Happy New Year once again. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye all.